What is going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be talking to you how I was able to raise $600,000 in capital for my software company. So again, this is definitely a very interesting video. You do want to watch this video if you're just starting out with your own, startup, or if you eventually want to raise capital. I'm going to be sharing some good tips here and kind of like some details of my journey, so that hopefully this can inspire you to learn from my mistakes, or hopefully also learn from my success. Also, I do have another video where I talk about how I was able to start a software company without me having any software experience. So if that's something you're interested, be sure to click on the video that you'll see right here. Also, for those of you who follow me, you know that this is not my typical studio. And the reason is because I'm recording from China. So for 2 months, I stayed in China and I worked in China in an office in China. So if you want to see how that experience was as well, I will have another video right here that you can click as well. So enough with all the clicking on the videos. Let's just go ahead and continue, but smash that like button, subscribe, and let's begin. So the first thing you need to know is that raising money doesn't just mean you get money or you just get, you also have to give. And so in my case, it costed me 48% of my company. Now, you might be saying, oh my God, Fernando, you are a really bad negotiator, or you probably really messed up big time, because 48% of your company for $600,000, a software company, that's way too much. That's ridiculous. So let me just explain that further down the video, but I just want to be straight up front. If you're planning on raising capital, be prepared to give some equity. That's the only way you're going to raise capital, unless you're going to be taking some debt, which again is more risk to you personally, but everybody's different. But now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to share some steps on how I kind of did this, okay? So in total, it's going to be right here, it seems 11 steps, okay? 11 steps on how I raised $600,000. So the first step is I identified a need. So in summary, our family business was spending $1,500 per month in software. And I said, you know what, we're not happy with it. I feel we can do better. And so that's when I identified a need to build a better POS system. Number two is I found a team. And again, I won't be going into detail as to how I found out the team, because I go into detail on the video that I just recommended, on how I started the software company without me knowing any software. But the long story short is that I was able to take advantage of the people I've met and known, of my relationships, my networking, you could say. And I was able to find some really high talented people that helped me make this software come up to reality. Again, just a pointer, this is why relationships are important. Step number 3, at SEMA 2021, which was 2 years ago from the time of recording this video, I started sharing and talking about my project. Now, this created two things. One, it allowed me to introduce the project to potential investors. And two, it also allowed me to get to know other people, to get the resources and get the team, assembled. Step number 4 is we build a very minimum viable product. So what this means is the system would barely work. You could log in and you could use it, but it had a lot of bugs. It was terrible. But we had an MVP for SEMA 2022, and I was able to showcase what we have done and our success, selling online and using the POS system in some of our stores, and by 2022. And so this allowed, gave validity to investors that I had spoken a year before about our progress. Now, keep in mind, I originally wanted to bootstrap the project, meaning I wanted to start selling the project as a software, so then I can, get more money and then continue growing the business that way, rather than just raising capital and giving equity away. But I ran out of money, and it was just too much too much pressure. And I was like, you know what, it's just better if I just get the money, give out the equity, and bring in another strategic partner on board. So when I decided that I needed to raise cash, that's when I went to step number 5. I started deciding how much do I want and how much am I willing to sell, right? So how much money do we need first and foremost to survive, to continue whatever project we have going on, and how much equity am I willing to give away? At this case, there's really no set metrics. Yes, there's the typical 20% minimum of equity you should be selling, and a new startup with no revenue should range anywhere between 2 to 4 million in valuation. But again, I was like, look, I'm gonna forget about everything for a moment. How much money do I need every month until we have a good, stable product that we could be self-sustaining? Because I don't, like, if we're gonna raise money once and done. And so that's when I came up with $400,000, which thinking back, I feel was really low. But the way I came up with that, I just came up with a list of all the expenses I've had, software developer, server expenses, my salary, whatever, expenses, marketing. And then I multiplied that by 24 months, and then I started saying, okay, within these 24 months, we should have at least 600 clients or, 500 clients or whatever amount of clients, and then we should be sustainable after that. And so once I came up with $400,000, I decided to add a little more to ask cushion. And so that's how we came up with a 600,000. I also found out that I needed to sell at least 20%. So that's where I was like, okay, so we'll do 20% for 600,000. Originally, it was actually 500,000 for 20%, which would have been a 2.5 million valuation because again, we didn't need the 600,000. We only needed 500,000. But as you guys will see later down the further steps, I'll explain why it ended up being 600,000. But once I knew how much I needed and how much I wanted, I had to build a pitch deck. At this time and stage, I didn't even know what a pitch deck was. And so a pitch deck is really a PowerPoint presentation that you show to investors. And it's a very specific type of PowerPoint presentation. And again, I'll share some B-roll here of how our pitch deck was. But here are my main tricks for pitch decks. And again, this is based on books, research, and countless hours of videos I watched and seminars I took on how to build a perfect pitch. In the first slide, you want to add the problem, right? So in our case, the software is no good, it's not integratable, and it's not easy to use and affordable, right? So that's the problem that currently our industry is facing. Then the next slide, you mentioned your solution. So in our case, we're trying to build a good and integratable piece of software that's affordable for everyone. The third slide should be target market, right? So who's going to be your customer? If you're targeting everyone, then you're really targeting no one. So for us, we're actually going after tire shops, wholesalers, mobile tire shops, and e-commerce or online sellers. So we make it a nice little thing called TAM, SAM, and SOM. So again, I don't want to bore you with so many details about the pitch deck, but again, I'll show some little slide here of how I came up with the TAM, SOM, and SOM. And so this just means, what's the total addressable market? How many tire shops exist in the US? Let's say 30,000 tire shops, right? Okay, so what's my attainable market, right? And so the attainable market will say, okay, well, the amount of shops that I can actually service maybe is 10,000 out of them, or 5,000 for whatever reason. Our servers can only handle up to 5,000 clients. And then the SOM is the obtainable market. So realistically, how much can we actually get from the attainable market? And so that's why I said, okay, we could get 600 clients within 2 years. And so that's something you add in the pitch. It's very important you add these things. The fourth thing you add into your pitch is the competition, right? You obviously want to show your investors there is competition. So in our case, we did a nice little table. We highlight the things that we have done, that we are doing better, and also some of the competitors' strengths. The sixth thing you want to add into your pitch is the business model, right? So how are you making money? In our case, it's fairly simple. We're a SaaS company, so we're making money out of recurring, subscriptions. But again, you want to detail that into your pitch so that investors understand how is it that you're making money. And then again, these next two slides are optional, but you could put the traction and the go-to-market strategy. So the traction just pretty much indicates, how much have you actually done so far? So in our case, the traction is like, hey, we started in 2021. We already have released this amount of products. We already have this amount of clients. We already have sold this amount of dollars and using our software. That would be our traction. And then the go-to-market would be more like, we plan to get our target audience or target customer through conventions, YouTube, whatever the case might be. So again, helps your investor understand how is it that you're going to be reaching out to your customer or your target customer. Finally, the last two slides is going to be the team and the ask. The team is fairly simple, just pictures of you and the developers on the team, or key figures if your team's very big, and the ask. So actually, how much are you asking? In our case, we already know it's 500,000 for 20%. I did make it clear, and again, maybe I'll touch this into later, but I did make it clear that I wanted a simple agreement for future equity. If you don't know anything about safes, just do another YouTube video search. There's a lot of videos out there, but trust me, that's just the easiest way to raise capital if you're a startup. Another 2 tips for the pitch, if you can add surveys. So I will be adding to our new pitch recently some surveys that we did to some shops, meaning that, hey, you know what, we're identifying that the problem is that shops want more integrations because, we did a 200 store survey, and out of those 200, 100 of them said they want more integrations. And so it's a visually appealing way and compelling way to validate your problem. And then also have your financials ready, right? So even if you have not sold anything, you still want to have some sort of numbers to say this is how we're coming up with our ask. So now that we got the pitch out of the way, trust me guys, that was the longest part of this whole thing. Now we're in point 7 of how to get the $600,000 raised. So now that you have a pitch deck, you send it over and start asking for meetings, right? So I sent the pitch over to a whole bunch of VCs, a whole bunch of people I knew, investment companies, companies even in our industry, and a lot of them didn't even respond, they didn't even comment, said they were gonna meet with me, never met with me. This is where your persistence really has to kick in and really start pushing and pushing and pushing. However, again, just don't be afraid of rejection, get used to it, but focus on getting the money if you really want it. Also, nothing is official until it's on a piece of paper signed, okay? So if you have already an investor you just pitched and they say, we're interested, don't even meet with anyone, we're gonna do this, tell them, unfortunately I can't until we have a signed, or do a letter of intent that we know, for a fact that you're serious about it. But don't stop your plans or cancel meetings because someone just said they might invest or that they're going to invest, but nothing's written. Step number 8 is educate yourself further. So I educated myself further, and by this I recommend the book called The Lean Startup. Again, The Lean Startup will definitely help you if you're a SaaS company, if you're a software as a service company and a startup dealing with software. So definitely read that, and some YouTube channels as well. So keep educating yourself during the process. And then number 9 is now you got some offers. You got some investors. Out of the hundreds of people you reach out to, some people start making you offers. And so this is where you decide, okay, which one are we gonna pick? In our case, we actually had about 3 offers that we were considering. Counter offers, nobody's just gonna accept your $500,000 for 20% unless it's a really good deal for the investor or unless there's extreme demand for investors wanting to come in and invest. But during the time we raised capital, the whole SoftBank collapse happened with Silicon Valley Bank, my bad. And so a lot of VCs were a bit scared and pulling back from risky investments. And not to mention that we're risky, but again, just the mood, the environment was really not good. So in our case, out of the 3 offers, we decided to go with the one that wanted 30% equity for $600,000. So they offered a little more cash, but they wanted 30% equity, which was a big hit for me personally, but I was like, you know what, it's fine. The disadvantage too was that I had to give a 5%, pretty much a 10% for employee pool. So if you don't know what that means is when you're hiring people, developers, CTOs, all that, you have to have some sort of equity set on the side so that you can offer this as commission, option, stock option plans, etc. So you're paying, some people out there are not just gonna want a high salary, they actually want a percentage of the company. And so that's why we need to set up, 10% pool. So in my case, it ended up costing me like 40%. And I had to give a little extra to my CTO, my co-founder. And so ultimately, that's why it ended up costing me about 47% of total equity. Step number 10 really is, you just sign agreements, you get the money, you use cash, do the safe agreement, or, hire an attorney to do the whole corporation and shares and all that stuff. But again, stick to the safe agreement if you can. Really push your investors to just stay with the safe agreement. If you need an attorney that specializes in startups and safes and all that stuff, I do have one, so feel free to reach out to me to get that referral. And step number 11, guys, that's it. I had it blank, so there's no step 11, so it was just 10 steps. But ultimately, guys, if you raise money, it's most likely you will want to raise again, especially if your idea is gaining a lot of traction and you're proving that it's very successful. So keep these stages of a company in mind. Normally the seed stage is just when you have nothing and you're just starting, right? Just the idea, maybe it's just one person that's helping you, but that's it. And then Series A stage is when you already have the seed round and you prove the concept. And in this case, let's say that we already get the 600 locations up in our sleeve and we already have a good development team. So we're steady, we're still startup, But that's when we would start doing our Series A pretty much stage, right? And then you could do more Series B, C, D, and so on and so forth, raises of capital, and then eventually you go public. So now that I raised my $600,000 for our software company, now it's up to me and my team to prove that there's a need for software in the tire industry, to prove that we've got the solution that we got is, good. And so again, it's exciting, but at the same time a bit scary, right? Because if I fail, obviously my name goes on the line. But well, it is nice to consider that technically I'm 53% owner of TireBase, a $2 million valued company. And so I'm technically a millionaire because I've reached my first million in paper form, right? I'm not really, my bank account still has the same $400. So technically in paper value, yes, my net worth is $1 million, but it could be worth $0 if we don't execute properly. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to smash that like button. Consider, emailing me, reaching out to me via LinkedIn or Instagram if you have questions. But yeah, I wish you success in your startup journey. Don't, let anybody say you can't raise. There were a lot of people that say that's impossible. Only other companies, bigger companies, software companies do this. No, there's a market for everyone. There's an investor for everyone. Just do your due diligence, do your homework, and you'll definitely succeed. So again, thank you so much guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.